Hi folks, today we're going to talk about CSS or cascading style sheets. So style sheets, as we said before, decorate the page or allow us to create styles on our page. As you can see here, we have a basic HTML page which just has the layout of everything that I've created over here. But there's nothing, no color, no font specifications, that type of thing created yet. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So there are three ways to create style sheets, or create CSS, I should say. The first way I'm going to talk about, but not too much, is to do it by creating a link tag inside of your head tag. And what this link tag does is allows us to attach a file that's not attached to our page so that we can create our styles elsewhere and then link it to the page that is existing right now. For example, right now I have just a little style page that I've created elsewhere. If I create this link like this, boom, the background turns light blue because I have another file where I've delegated that the background should be blue and connected it. But we're not going to worry about that right now. Another way to create, by the way, that was called external style sheets. So another way to create our styles is to create a style tag inside of our head tag, and that is called internal style sheets. And this is where we'll set up our rules, etc. And I'm going to leave this here right now because we're going to work with that in a moment. One final way that we can create CSS is by adding an attribute called style inside our tag, and there we can create a rule like so, which we'll get to what rules are. But you'll notice that here, as I change the color of this paragraph, my paragraph turned green, which I asked it to. So that's called inline styles, and you'll work with that as well a bit. Right now, let's go up and talk a bit about our internal styles. So the way to create internal styles requires us to create something called a selector, followed by curly brackets. And inside each selector, it's going to take what's called a property and a value. So for each rule, you're going to have a property and a value. It's not going to say property and value literally, but it's going to be called a property and value. And you're going to be able to have as many properties and values as you would like to within each rule. So let's start, for example, with the body, which we saw earlier. So if we took the body, which is this right here, and we decided that we wanted a light blue background, like we did before, we could give it a property of background, and then we could create the color light blue. And you notice I get lots of suggestions here as well, right, of what kind of colors I could do. Let's do like sky blue, for instance. And as soon as I save it, boom, there you go. You're going to see a light blue background just like that. I think I liked the light blue a little bit better than the, it's not as, there we go. Okay. So that's one way to do it. Another thing that we can do is, for example, define what type of font we want. And we do that by saying font family. And you see it gives me a lot of suggestions based on common suggestions, based on the fonts that are in the computer that you have, or basic web fonts, actually. So, for example, let's go ahead and choose, let's not choose Arial, I think. Yep, Arial will work. So Arial, I chose it there, Helvetica Sans Serif, and you saw, I think I'll comment it out and show you the difference. You saw how it changed the page. This is how it looked before. This is how it looked after I changed it. Now, what this is saying right here is that Arial is the choice for me for the font, but I need a fallback font just in case Arial is not available for me. And so if Arial doesn't work, I'll use Helvetica. If Helvetica isn't available, then I'll use any sans serif font that is available, like that. So there you go for that. Let's go ahead and style, for example, our H1 by giving it the selector, H1. And our rule is going to be to color our font, which in this case is going to be color, which is the property, And we can give it any type of color. It can be by name, but it can also be by something we call hex, which is a 6-character way of defining color. So if I change the H1, it becomes white because FFFFFF is the exact same thing as just saying white, which would have the same effect, right? So there that is. We can also do the same thing with H2. I think you get the idea. We could say, let's make it a type of gray for this. And if I save it, and if I did it correctly, H2, we don't have an H2, so let's make it an H3. And this became a lighter gray, if you'll notice. I can comment it out to show you the difference again. If you look over here, it's black. When I comment it in, it turns a little bit of gray. And that's how you begin to style different elements on your page. Now, you can also style, for example, your image. One big thing about an image is that we often like round images. So we could say that our border radius, like this, 50%. And there we have it. We suddenly have that circular picture that we see for a lot of profile pictures on our page. And we can also decide what this link is going to look like. I think sometimes you see that links don't have underlines. For example, we often want to get rid of that. So we can take our anchor selector and we can choose text, decoration, and choose none because we don't want it to be underlined, and the underline disappears. Did you see that? I'll comment it out again. Keep your eye over here. I'm going to comment it out, and we have an underline here. But if I comment it in like this, it goes away. So that's some of the basic stylings that you have. I encourage you to Google CSS and get to know a lot of the different rules and a lot of different properties and values. Learn your hexagonal and RGB colors as well. And just kind of play around with it in your VS Code or even on JS Fiddle. Okay, see you next video.